Yeah, that's right. It's nothing but Netflix, and it's me, your host Chappell, back to talk to you about another very popular thing on Netflix. We try to do what's trending, we try to do what the people are discussing, and this was very much so in the news a couple weeks ago. It's AKA Charlie Sheen, and I know if you're listening to this, you probably have a few opinions about Charlie Sheen, and I definitely want to get to hear the opinions of my special guest with me from the Crime Scene podcast. It's Sarah Carradine. Sarah, welcome back.
Thank you, Chappelle. I'm very happy to be back. Sorry, listeners, if you don't like snotty, croaky people, you better switch off now because I'm not going to sound any better in the next few minutes. It's flu
It,
season,
it
everybody.
is. It is.
Get your
Hopefully,
vaccination. It
you
helps.
know, please, just take care of yourself. Take
Yeah,
care of
yeah.
yourself. And I just expressed that for everybody. Before we even get going, Sarah, this was a heavy topic. Charlie Sheen himself is a heavy topic. And so we're going to talk about some things that might not be that great, might not be like palatable for some people. We're going to talk about suicidal ideation and drug use and abuse and things of that nature. Basically, if it's toxic, we're about to talk about it today. So, hey, feel free to bow out if you need to, because the Charlie Sheen journey is just that. It is so much of a journey, and we have to watch two episodes, two 90-minute episodes of this documentary, heavily narrated by Charlie Sheen himself. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions about everything we saw. So, Sarah, I chose you as somebody who I would like to talk to this about because I know you are a documentary expert. Okay, you've worked behind the cameras, but you also watch a lot of documentaries and docuseries over on Crime Scene. So I definitely wanted your expertise with the layout of this whole thing that we end up doing because it's very interesting to me.
Yeah, and I actually thought you'd ask me because I'm the same age as Sean Penn and Mr. Sheen. I'm a little bit older than Mr. Sheen, like by a year
Well,
or two.
well, I also thought about you because I figured, like for like
My
the historical
period.
press.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
like I experienced a lot of Charlie Sheen through the media because I wasn't like we're not in the same age range to where I would have been like seeing the movies in real time and seeing him grow up in real time. When I was coming up, he was just a well-known name, almost like a household name. But I knew that probably watching this and the journey that he goes on from, we see from beginning to end, basically, as far as I'm concerned. I think that, it's great to have somebody who had a perspective of being able to watch it in real time.
Yeah. I mean, as children and young folk, we were watching Martin Sheen movies come out
Mhm.
in real time before he turned to his marvelous television career. So, I mean, I'm jumping in here, but the use of clips is non-pareil in this documentary. So we have
Mhm.
Andrew Renzi, who's the writer and director, and he directed Pepsi, Where's My Jet, which is an absolute recommendation from me. It's a fantastic documentary. And he also directed The Curse of Von Dutch, A Brand to Die For, which is a bit problematic, but it's worth a watch as well if you're interested in contemporary culture, if you're interested in fashion and all of that sort of stuff. So I was very interested to see what he would do with Charlie Sheen, Carlos
Mhm.
Estevez.
Yes. Now, Sarah, you told me that you weren't actually considering watching this at
Hey,
first.
that was in
You know,
secret.
well, I mean,
Well, I
I
just
didn't want to
look.
force you.
No, no, no. I didn't feel forced. I was actually glad you asked me because I thought, well, now I have to watch it.
Hmm.
Um, and Chappelle's warning at the top of this episode should not be taken lightly, and that was one of the reasons I kept putting off watching it. I knew what darkness we were going to go into. I must say the experience of it is like we knew, but we didn't know, right, Chappelle?
Hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
These
there's
are
stuff in this that's appalling.
it's a lot. And he is a household name, and so a lot of his lore is the stuff we watched in his documentary, but it's stuff you've heard about, right? And to see Charlie Sheen now, at his current age, really like recounting some of the incidents, is jarring because we see a person look back on their life, and this is not like us talking about tall tales of things that happen. We get the talking heads here are the loved ones that are closest to him, the people who are at the interventions that they have for this man are sitting here and talking about what it's like to know him and to watch him spiral out of control over and over and over and over again, almost on like an endless cycle, up until the last 8 years or so, where he has been sober, from what we can tell. So, absolutely just tragic to watch. But I was so fascinated by it, Sarah. I couldn't look away. It
Oh
felt
no,
like
it's 90 minutes is nothing, and then you want to turn straight on to the next episode.
It felt like someone was telling war stories. You know how
Mhm.
fish tales, where you're like listening and you're hearing all the stories and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're on the edge of your seat thinking, well, what could have possibly happened next? And I guess the worst part about it to me was that every story ended with Charlie Sheen bouncing back through whatever privileges he was able to have, whether it's just being an attractive white man, being the son of a movie star, being wealthy, being in the right place at the right time. He talks about how consequences start to feel soft to him. Like the word meant nothing because he never really was having to sit and experience his consequences before the next thing would come and lift him up to the next high that he was getting. And to me, that was just so fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you say war stories. They are very most of them are very practice stories. To me, and I wrote this in my notes, the last 15 minutes of the second episode, we get what I consider was something real when he's
Mm.
talking. When he's talking about the other side of the menu.
Mhm.
And these are not stories that he's told before. The practiced stories are very lovey, if you know that expression. Lovey is a theatre term about, old lovies, actors sitting around telling stories. I've been listening to them all my life. And they're very practiced, and they either show the teller in a very good light, sort of accidentally, because the other person said something or did something, or in not a good light, but it's very ha ha he he.
Oh yeah.
So he does things like he says, well, I went to the phone and it was Clint. I
And
thought,
you're like,
you can
Clint
say
who?
Clint Eastwood.
Right, but you have to lean
Yes.
in
Yeah.
and say, Clint
Oh,
who? And you're like, oh, he knows Clint
he
Eastwood.
knows.
Okay.
That's a very lovely thing to do, is just use first names or even use nicknames, Clinto. And the other thing he said is when he was nominated for a Globe, I said, you've got time to say Golden Globe. It's like when I worked for the opera, I was a guest artist at the Australian Opera for 25 years. We refer to the Opera House as the house. Are you going to
Mhm.
the house? It'll be at the house. Have you been to the house? I would no more say that on a public forum than fly to the moon, because it's wanky, as we would say here. Say Clint Eastwood, say Golden Globe. It's okay. You're talking to an audience. So while I don't doubt the general veracity of his stories, I think they're generally true. I think they've been polished and they've been turned into the mythology very much. Actually, just before we go on, I wanted to ask you, were you startled, or did you think it was par for the course, the absence of two very, very strong voices on the documentary?
I mean, he does like really lean over and like lean on like the words of his brothers and stuff like that. And he's telling us like, oh no, they'd be very proud of me. My family would be. And then we get the title, the little card that says they did not sign up for this. Like they refused to comment. They didn't want to be involved. And so although he's telling us, no, my family is very supportive of me and they love me and they're proud of me. It's like we only got one of the Estevez brothers. I think Ramon is the only
We
one
got
aside from
Ramon,
Charlie
yes.
who was
Yeah.
there, so uh, yeah, those are the voices that you want to hear. Those are the voices that add the sincerity to something like this. Because of course you have Charlie Sheen, who is going to give you the big version of the story. I feel like that's just who he is. He's always going to leave you wanting more. He's always going to be a very animated storyteller. That's him. But from there, it's all very surface level. Even the
Mm.
dark stuff is surface level, where it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, my brothers and stuff are very proud of me. Yeah, that's a very easy way of you being like, oh yeah, and they're cool too. But if you talk to them, I'm pretty sure you could get another 90 minutes out of this documentary.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't blame them for not being involved. I think they do. I mean, Martin Sheen is on record as saying that he loves all his children. And we do
Mhm.
get a beautiful scene. Yes, it's from a drama, but it's him with Charlie playing his son, and he tells him he loves him, and he kisses him on the forehead. And I thought, yeah, that's real. But I
Mhm.
would imagine for both of them that to talk about this would be so painful if they're going to be real about it. When we get two of his wives who are basically walking on razor blades to tell the truth because they think it's important. what both those women, I loved them. They were really MVPs of the two parts of the documentary. But what those women went through to sit there and talk about Charlie, I thought was quite extraordinary.
Yeah. So bringing in the love interest, whether it's Denise Richards or Brooke Mueller, it's hard. It really is hard to kind of know that. And I think Denise Richards, I think her part of the story was a little bit more palatable to me than the Brooke Mueller of it all, because Brooke also goes through her own struggles. And she talks about situations where, we find out that Charlie gets abusive, and she goes and she tells her story. She tells the police what happened. And then once she sobers up, she's like, oh, was I the problem? Was it me? Did I put him in this situation? I knew he struggled with drugs. I shouldn't be allowing him to do this. And the fact that now he's so high that he's being aggressive and doing all this other stuff and threatening me, I must have pushed him to it. I'm the one his drug use is public. Everyone knew. So I made him act like this, and so she would recant her story to the news and to the police and say, like, no, he's fine, which only further enables him to go and do the same
consequences,
thing again.
right?
No consequences. That really would have been a good name for this.
She overtly says, I knew what it would cost him professionally if I went through with it.
Mm-hmm.
She knows it was real. But it's very, very difficult to hear her take that blame onto herself. And she was 8 years sober when they met.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tough.
Not that it's his fault. Not that it's his fault, but like calls to like.
Yeah. We go way back to Charlie as a child and talking about kind of like how it was growing up with like a famous dad and the fourth brother of the entire crew, and all that kind of stuff, and how his dad basically had them on set at different times. But he watched his dad go through his own sobriety struggles while on set of, was that Platoon or the other?
Apocalypse Now. Yeah, Charlie's in Platoon, Martin's in Apocalypse Now. Yes.
And he had to basically go, and he says his dad credits him with helping him rehab out of that moment just from going and being on set. And addiction is a disease for sure. And we definitely know that the way you're raised can help, exacerbate some of these things that aren't in you, or that can create parts of you. And seeing his dad kind of being like a functioning alcoholic on set, or going through withdrawals on set and coming back from it and still being one of the greatest names in film and television at the time, it probably sets a precedent for, this is something that I too can do, and we will see Charlie do it over and over again.
But don't forget the other children in the family also have that example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why I think it's something innate. There's something, and as I say, like calls to like, there's something in you. And it is a disease, absolutely, but it's a disease for which there are, mitigations, let's say. Addiction. Yeah.
No,
But I loved going back to the beginning, didn't you?
The beginning was nice. I like the home video footage. Like, again, I brought you here because I know you know documentaries. Anytime I can get the raw footage of something, I'm in, because I want to be able to see it too. Like, it's one thing for you to tell me something happened, as we talked about. We can blow these things up out of proportion. Our own memory of the situation might be different, but to see his childhood friends like Tony Todd as when he's around as a child, Sean Penn as somebody else that we see in his orbit, George Clooney. So knowing that he grew up around these stars and being able to see it really did add another layer, as far as I was concerned, to the documentary, and kind of like the gravity of all of this, because this isn't him just like talking about something that you kind of have to make up in your mind. You see it. And so you can only imagine what these nights are like with these like famous rich people as they get older, as they all go through their own peer pressures and their different struggles with drugs and alcohol and all this other stuff, knowing that they're coming up together and knowing that Charlie is the one who's going to get it the worst.
Yes. I mean, we get the early, it's not really mythologizing because it's sort of true, but we hear the story of the 1983 film Grizzly 2. He calls it The Predator. It's also called The Revenge. And if you want to know more about that movie, first of all, you can watch the first 2 minutes on YouTube, and then you've seen Charlie. That's it. He's Spoiler, he gets killed by the grizzly. And otherwise, you can go to a fantastic podcast called How Did This Get Made? And Jason Mantzoukas says it seemed to be like a movie cobbled together from found scraps of other movies. And in fact, it's true. 1983, it was filmed. 2020, it was finished. So Laura Dern, George Clooney, and Charlie Sheen play these three teenagers who are walking in the woods, and then they get killed because they were having sex. That part of the movie actually happened halfway through the movie, but once everybody's famous, it goes to the beginning, and listen, the credits say starring Laura Dern, George Clooney, and much. So it's a good laugh. Charlie Sheen, it's a good laugh. He says he was offered the Karate Kid, and his father said, no, you agreed to do Grizzly 2, so you can't take the Karate Kid. And it's true, but he didn't mention that also offered the Karate Kid was Robert Downey Jr., Sean Penn, his brother Emilio Estevez, Nicolas Cage, Eric Stoltz, Kyle Eastwood, Tom Cruise. Did I say
everybody?
Sean Penn? Yeah, I said Sean Penn.
Everybody was offered.
That's the pack of young chaps we were watching in the 80s. And there's a little bit of Nepo baby going if you think Laura Dern, George Clooney, and Charlie Sheen are all children of famous people. Now, they've made their own way, yes, but that selection by the director of Grizzly 2 was very, very, you think, wow, how did those three people who turned into amazing actors get on the movie? Yeah, the Nepo. It can be a Nepo baby and then also be very, very talented. So that's what I mean about the mythologizing. It's like, it's as if he was the one they wanted. He turned it down, so Ralph Macchio gets it. And look what happened. But it's the other little problem, if I may say,
go ahead,
is that he was filming Red Dawn at the time they were filming Karate Kid.
So
I don't know. It's a better story if he turned it down for Grizzly 2 than if he turned it down for Red Dawn. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to contradict Mr. Sheen, but I think he turned it down because he was doing Red Dawn. Anyway, just my opinion.
No, I'm happy you brought that up because I had no clue that the entire cast of The Outsiders was offered the role as
cast.
Yeah,
the entire cast of The Outsiders.
very much the entire cast, and of course their star Ralph Macchio all come from that same movie, and so
Well, like Thomas Howell and D.B. Sweeney were also offered it. Sorry, I didn't say them before because people might know them so well, but look them up. Yes.
Yeah. So it's so funny to me that like the story he tells is not only like this big fishtail about okay, I could have been the biggest person back then. Like I almost had it then, but it's almost like as a way of him to kind of like put the blame on his dad as like because he goes. Yeah, he goes, my dad told me that I couldn't, that I had to like be a man of my word. And, so I couldn't take that role. I had to do this tiny, role that no one's ever going to see. And then, like things just happened and Ralph Macchio happened to blow up. But like, if it wasn't for my dad, I would have taken the role and I would have been the original Karate Kid. All of this would have happened. We'd never know who Ralph Macchio was, despite him being the Outsiders with all the rest of the 80s and 90s heartthrobs that we would go and see going to live in infamy forever. So yeah, I just thought that too was a moment of like, it's a cool story, but the purpose of the story isn't just to say like, dang, isn't that crazy that happened? It's to be like, yeah, and my dad took that from me. And I didn't, it's just very odd because he doesn't have a lot of strong words against his dad. He paints his parents in a very specific way. He talks about how maybe it was a little lawless around the house. There was practicing nudism for 5 or 6 months. And so maybe it's not like he plants he plants the seeds of like, this unorthodox upbringing might be the reason why he is.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of talk from him and from other people about why is he like he is? Oh, is it because he's such a genius and everything comes so easily to him and he thinks he doesn't deserve it, so he sabotages himself? It's a bit pop culture psychology for me. It's a bit easy to say that. Sometimes you're an addict because you're an addict. Things will set you off. There's also this big myth about him being almost superhuman. Sean Penn calls him a genius. He takes so many drugs that would kill someone else, but it's not going to kill him. I mean, Slash has never seen anyone so fucked up that lived. And that's Slash.
And
It's like,
that's Slash. Yeah.
okay, you could have just been an addict that took a lot of drugs, like a lot of people did. And some of them died and some of them didn't, and you didn't. You don't have to be the most superhuman. So while he's sober and he says that he's made amends, and we must believe him when he says that he has made amends to the people that he's hurt, it's like he's stuck on this idea of, we all know the famous rant about, with Andrea Canning, Queen Andrea Canning, how could you treat her like that? About how he's winning, how he's got tiger blood, how he's got superhuman strength and all of that. It's as if that testosterone and other drug-fueled rant and belief has moved through into his sober life, and he hasn't re-examined it because he has to be the most fucked up, the most drugged out, the most this, the most that. It's like you could just be an ordinary addict with lots and lots of money who doesn't have to face any consequences and who people are super happy jumping over themselves to serve and help. So that's why I say these stories have a ring of not falseness to them, but it's the approved story, as it were.
Right. It's a very fantastical look at the things that happened to him, and when they are we really could talk about them as very tragic stories. And he does not. I can relate to that in a lot of ways. When I talk about myself and the sad things that have happened to me, there's always a big grin on my face. I'm always laughing. I'm always making light of it. And Charlie Sheen will move through life like that the entire time. It seems there's never a point where there are definitely parts where he gets emotional, but it doesn't last long. It's in and out. He kind of sits with it, and then he moves on to the next cool story to kind of blow your mind. The next big moment, the next, like, it's like the roller coaster ride. He's almost the one he's been chasing in life. That's how he just kind of addresses things. It's like, oh yeah, I was in rehab and I broke out to go to a bikini contest, but like, isn't it cool that I offered this lady $1 million and then I made it back in time and she couldn't even get her $1 million because I got there like 20 minutes before the time limit? And you're like, that's dope. And I'm thinking, no, that's sad. That's sad. You left. Your family had to trick you into going to rehab in the first place, using your dad's birthday as a way to get you to an intervention in a room full of people that you love. Clint Eastwood had to make the call, and you did all of that, and we're willing to throw it all away for a bikini contest. That's sad. It's not impressive.
And I'm sorry, I thought, and is it true?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we don't really get anybody else's perspective of that, except for, I guess, the silence of Nicolas Cage is what we should really be looking at to find out about the truth of some of these stories, right?
Yes.
I haven't done any Googles about this, but this documentary dropped a couple weeks ago. And if I'm Nicolas Cage, if this stuff is not true, then I'm probably at the very least speaking up and saying, I'm happy that Charlie Sheen found help in his life, something like that, and distancing myself from this. Because he really makes it sound like when him and Nick linked up, that's when the party got going.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is where the use of the film clips comes in, because even though we know they're from films, it's sort of as if that person is commenting on what Charlie just said. So that was very clever of the director, and I think a little bit sly, because you sort of miss that you're not actually getting the story from another person. I think that the emotion we do see, as I say, the last 15 minutes, I think we got some realness. But he does this thing where he's going out with a girl and they're on drugs and what have you, and she dies. And he says there's an afterthought, well, she died. And then he stops and he has to remember that he should be emotional about it. It's so casually dismissive. And I found it very hard to sit with him, because I thought he's a human being. He has been through these things, and it was public, and he hurt a lot of people, and he's had to sit with that for all his periods of sobriety. And he's had long periods of sobriety, and he's in his 7th or 8th year now. So I want to give him the grace of being a human being and what he has to go through. But at the same time, I can go, buddy, what are these blocks that are still there? And then maybe the first time they clear the room for him to speak about what he speaks about in the last 15 minutes, and he's never spoken about it publicly. So I think, okay, well, you got there.
Sarah, How do you feel about this as a comparison to Charlie Sheen? He's very BoJack Horseman.
Oh,
I think
very. Yeah, and I adore BoJack Horseman.
I love my horse.
Adore.
I love
Yeah,
BoJack. I do. And
yeah.
I know BoJack was like, okay, this is like a loose adaptation of like the story of maybe like a Bob Saget character because he's like doing like the Full House thing or whatever. Scratch Bob Saget, insert
Mhm.
Charlie Sheen, and you have BoJack Horseman. It's a person who will never take life seriously enough to get his stuff together for completely, and will always go out of his way to sabotage himself while people are falling over him to try to make sure he's okay, and while he's tearing their lives apart simultaneously. I didn't even think until you were just talking a second ago, the way you described him and just his lack of remorse, but also kind of like his lack of consequence, I think is what really like made that light bulb go off and say, "Oh, he's BoJack." I wonder if he was a part of the inspiration for that.
That would be really interesting to find out. A side note, have you been watching Long Story Short from,
I have I
Whack Smith
started, so
and,
I
yeah.
watched episode one.
Mhm.
We were going to try to talk about it here on Nothing But Netflix. I
Yeah,
need to rope in my potential co-hosts for that. I've been dancing around with a couple people trying to get this thing booked. But yeah, hopefully we can talk
yeah.
about Long Story Short. What you
Good.
think?
Yeah. Oh, it's just brilliant. Episode 2 is canon worthy. There's a
Mhm.
silent 2 minutes. I thought, "Oh, here we go with the silence being brilliant again." No dialogue, 2 minutes of episode 2 that is spectacular. So yes, I would say yes, do watch it and do, get the BoJacks on to talk about it because that would be fascinating.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah,
yes,
definitely.
that's so interesting what you say, and I think that I mean, the word enabling is thrown about a lot, in life. I don't mean it's barely mentioned in this documentary, if it's ever mentioned, but if you want a blueprint print for enabling, it's here. The culture enabled it, the press enabled it, when he's going nuts on 2.5 Men, which he's far too good for apparently, uh they enable it by saying, "Well, we need 2 more seasons, and it's a lot of money." And yes, he's missing rehearsals, but he arrives and knows his lines. You go, does he? Talk to John Cryer about that. Ask John Cryer about that. But that enabling of why are you letting him still have his 2 million an episode show? And in fact, they renegotiated while he was drug fucked
Gave
to
him
get
more
2
money.
million per show.
Yeah. Yeah. Gave him more money.
Yeah.
Um, Sarah,
Yes.
I want to know if it's like just like I know when we're talking about enabling, like definitely giving him more money to be him is crazy. Like and knowing that he's going through those things, and it's very clear that that's happening. If you ask anybody around him, they all knew. No one saw. Charlie was not doing this in secret. Okay, he just doesn't have that in him. So it's very like that. Those people are definitely enabling him. But is the idea that the media is constantly looking for a Charlie Sheen type for these roles? The reason why he gets 2.5 Men because they're like, we're looking for somebody who's kind of like Charlie Sheen, like a bad boy, like blah blah. He does like he's a womanizer a bit. He does a little drug. You might have been on drugs at some other time, but he's probably reformed. And then they say, well, can we get Charlie Sheen? And then they do. And then Charlie Sheen gets to go and act as a caricature of Charlie Sheen, and the world falls in love with it. It happened with 2.5 Men, but that's also how he got the role for Spin City, allegedly. They said, okay, we're bringing in a replacement for Michael J. Fox, and this time we want somebody who's like, oh yeah, I just rolled out of bed and came here, right? I used to, I slept with a lot of women. I was maybe on drugs or alcohol at the time, whatever. And they go, okay, well, let's get a Charlie Sheen type, and they get Charlie Sheen. So it's like,
Mm.
on the one hand, yeah, we glamorize him when he goes off the rails, but even the idea that somebody like Charlie Sheen needs to be on a television platform, or like that's a character that you can like a character with a heart of gold that you can latch onto and really root for. I think that's perpetuated in the media.
Yeah, I have to confess to never having seen an episode of it, although that Simpsons clip about the dead cold eyes of Charlie Sheen was, oh yes, brilliant.
Very funny.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the job of an actor to inhabit another skin.
Mm-hmm.
A. B. Sitcoms rely so much on archetypes, even to say stereotypes. And because it's a day in, day out, it's a really big job to be on a weekly television show. So if you cast very much to type, you are 90% of the way there.
Mhm.
So you can see why they would, if they want a Charlie Sheen type, let's get Charlie Sheen. And also the sheen of the big name and the excitement of seeing him act out in a very mild, G-rated version his life. We must remember, apparently the character's a reformed bad boy. There seems to be a lot of nudity in it, not excluding Jeff Probst.
Yeah.
I've seen that scene. So, yeah, I think there's, and there's that idea of, oh, we all like a bad boy. Well, I mean, do we? Because
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we? Because they hurt us.
Oh yeah, just ask all the talking heads in here.
Yeah.
They all love a bad boy,
Oh, yeah.
and this bad boy specifically, but
Yes.
all of them are on the brink of tears at some point or another throughout this,
Yes.
talking about this bad boy that they love so much.
Mm.
Whether it's Tony Todd, whether it's like any of his former wives or girlfriends or whatever, all of them, Sean Penn, are all just kind of like talking about him and like holding him in high regard and giving him grace to be a flawed human, but also to be somebody who's been struggling with addiction, but then also looking very sad while they kind of remember the good moments, the things that could have been, and how, what he could be like if he hadn't, fallen off the wagon so many times. And if maybe they hadn't enabled that type of behavior. So it's like, yeah, you think you like a bad boy until he's your bad boy.
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. And what did you think of him in the now? So he's sitting in a diner. I thought this was a very clever setup. He's sitting in a diner. The documentary makes no bones about the fact it's empty apart from the film crew. And the light slowly fades outside the window. What did you think of him now? How did he strike you now? Where is he? Like, where is he?
It definitely is a documentary that ends with like almost like a sunnier or hopeful disposition a little bit. Like by the end, we're seeing like his daughter talking about she has a good relationship with him. We see his son. We see Brooke being like, now that I still struggle with things, but he is the one that we look toward to for strength. In the in a way that I can't be that for him, but he can be that for me now. And so it does lead you to believe like that he's in a better place, and that maybe this is the place where he will stay. But we also don't know that. Based on everything else we know about Charlie Sheen, we should still be concerned. The people closest to him should never let up. They should be relentless with trying to make sure that he is on the up and up, and not giving in to temptation, because this is a disease. This is not something that he can control, allegedly. Like if this is an addiction, this is above him. Okay, you are an addict for life. You recovering addict the moment you decide to stop. But you are not. It doesn't go away. And so for me, it left me with hope. But I'm also kind of hoping that it's not just hope for Charlie Sheen. I'm hoping for the people around him, the people that he still has in his circle. Hopefully, they will hold him tight and make sure that he knows that he's loved and doesn't have to turn to those other temptations to kind of get his fix. Now, to be fair, he's put himself in a situation where it's very hard for Charlie Sheen to move around without people looking at him and expecting him to implode. I mean, whether it's drug use, alcohol, or even sexual appetite, like people are not. He can't move as covertly as he probably would like. And so that makes it more difficult. But what did you think? This is the end of the documentary. The documentary is trying to tell us something. As you said before on Crime Scene, they all are. What do you think the story of this documentary is when it comes to Charlie Sheen?
It's like a fixed point in time. I think the documentary says, and he never had drugs again.
Basically.
Yeah. And that he is entertaining. He's very thoughtful about what he's done, a little bit performed for my taste, but it's not my business. The amends that he's made with his wives or with his children. His children certainly like him, but children tend to love their parents no matter what they do. And they are young. And one of his twin boys is living with him, so
yeah.
And he's leaving notes for him, which I found very charming. Like calling him the C word, and because he didn't put the lid back on a drink, which I thought was fantastic. More of that for your teenage children, please. Call them. So I think it's saying, here he is now. I think he's saying, here I am now. That's all behind me, because there was never a question about the future. There was never a question. What's next for Charlie Sheen? If it was Andrea Canning, she would have said, and what's next for Charlie Sheen? The
Mhm.
documentary doesn't do that. And I mean, in a professional way, in a personal way, where are you? That he wants to live in the now is great because that's very good for addicts. I'm not drinking right now. I'm not picking up the crack pipe right now. I'm not eating right now. So you can do that, and I appreciate that. And it may have been he says at the beginning there's nothing off the table, but it may have been a question that was off the table. I don't know. So it has this curious positive end, but it's like, and that was the end of Charlie Sheen, But it's not, because he's very young, my
Mhm.
age, so he's very young. Sean Penn looks very tired. I'm sorry. I had to look up Sean Penn's age because I thought we were about the same age. We are exactly the same age, and he
Has
looks
Sean
very
Penn
tired.
Sean Penn he's dealt with some
He's dealt with
struggles
some
as
stuff and been sober for
well.
a really long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that it's a competition. But
Well,
he had more consequences.
well, there were definitely moments where the documentary kind of focuses on Sean Penn, not so much the story of Sean Penn, but the moments where he's in his, his confessional or whatever, he's doing his interview. There's the moment they show him rolling up his sleeves and they really focus on his arms. There's a moment I think he takes a knife and he's scraping something off of the table. I'm thinking, well, what do you mean by that? Like, what are y'all trying to say? Because I know y'all ain't filming him do cocaine. So the fact that he has this moment of him doing that, to leave that in and to even almost like highlight it, I was like, what the Sean Penn of it was very questionable.
Shall
to
I
me,
Google,
Sarah.
is Sean Penn sober for college essay? What have you got to say to me, AI? No public information.
Yeah.
Suggesting he's not sober or
Shoot.
using sobriety as a topic for a college essay. Thanks, Google.
Yeah.
He's
I'd seen
staying sober. Yeah, it says that he's getting and staying sober.
I'd seen an
Yeah.
article.
And he's a support for other actors like Shia LaBeouf in their
Yeah, I was
journeys
gonna
to
say that.
sobriety. Good on you, Sean.
Yeah. Well, Shia LaBeouf definitely credits Sean Penn and James Brolin as the people who have helped him get sober. But the I feel like the tone of this documentary did not give you that Sean Penn is doing well. Whenever they cut to him again, it's just the way they focus on him. I was like, I don't know if they're trying to focus on him being another person who struggles with this stuff. And so like they're trying to highlight that. But I didn't really enjoy that because, like I said, if he's currently sober, I think you should allow him to be that and not try to paint him as something he's not.
Well, he's certainly using, the drunkard's friend, the sober drunkard's friend, which is the cigarette. Like
The cigarette, yeah.
Sean, can't you put the cigarette down for 2 minutes? No, he can't.
He cannot.
It's
Sarah,
legal.
Yeah, it's legal, and look, at the bare minimum, it's legal. And I'll take that for sure over the alternative. Sarah, who was your favorite talking head that you that we had in this documentary? Because I have one in mind that I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay, let me think. So I think Heidi Fleiss.
Heidi Fleiss, top 2. She's in my top 2.
She and Denise were my 2 favorites.
I preferred Brooke to Denise, but I think my other favorite is his drug dealer. The fact that they got this man to pop up as the drug dealer, Sarah, what? Like, who does that?
Fantastic. He was fantastic. He was getting $15,000 every time he walked through Charlie's door.
And you wonder why his man enabled him. Like, I'm not going to tell this man to stop doing drugs if he's giving me $15K to hang out with him. This is the most BoJack Horseman thing ever. It's Todd. It's sleeping on the couch. It's like where as long as I'm around you, I'm fine. Like, whatever, do whatever you want. If you got to do drugs, I hope you stop. But if not, let's party.
And they were up for 3 or 4 days, and then he'd go home and sleep for a week. But in 3 or 4 days, he's made 15 by 4 is $60,000.
Yeah.
And then whatever the crack cost him, he was cooking it himself, as we find out. Yeah, he was very interesting to talk to him. Not a single regret, apparently.
No, he's like, do it all over again. I think Charlie's only regret that he really speaks to is the crack. because he says the woman that he ended up doing crack with, she obviously died and overdosed in her early 30s, and he takes some credit for that. But like that whole story where he's like having sexual intercourse with this woman, she's doing oral sex on him, and then he's like smoking crack pipe at the crack pipe at the same time, and he like he gets higher than he's ever gotten high before, and now he's chasing that high as opposed to all the rest of the highs. I mean, he's talking about like injecting cocaine into his. Like, he's done it all. When he says he's done it all, he means it.
Yes, that part of it isn't myth. That part of it, I mean, as Slash would say.
I mean, and they should have got. We should have got a quote from Slash. I feel like they can be like, oh yeah, even Slash said. I'm like, Slash ain't even here. Leave Slash out of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell me
so
about
the Heidi Fleiss section.
Yes, we're on the same point.
I know. Were you familiar? I mean, do you remember this? Because I remember it clearly. This whole Heidi Fleiss thing.
So I remember Heidi Fleiss is almost like a fictional character. So when I was growing up, I would hear about her name, kind of like how you hear about other almost like urban legends, like the Long Island Lolita and things of that nature. Like just names that you have in the back of your head. But it's because I watched a lot of TV. So I was watching E! And USA and stuff like that, where they were putting on like, I'm pretty sure there's like a Lifetime documentary about Heidi Fleiss, and there were like reality shows where they were like she was on them, Celebrity Rehab and things of that nature. So I know Heidi Fleiss, but I don't know, like I didn't experience her dealing with being the madam that she was, and then experiencing those highs in her stardom. But from your perspective, what was it like knowing Heidi Fleiss' role back then, and then seeing it in the documentary?
Yeah, I experienced it in real time, I suppose you would say. Experienced it as in saw it on the news in various places. So for people who don't know, Heidi Fleiss was called the Hollywood Madam. She was fairly young. She had girls, and she provided girls to whoever wanted them and whoever had large amounts of money to pay for them. Sex work is work. We're not going to be talking bad about that. As long as we are consenting adult humans, that's fine. So it's that prurience of some Western cultures towards sex. You can do it behind closed doors. Everyone knows that powerful men pay women for sex, let's say if that's true. Everyone knows it, nod and a wink. But if it comes out in public, then the women must be punished. It's as simple as that. So she was in her 30s. She was a very attractive woman herself. I believe she would get offered lots of money and she would turn it down. Or maybe she didn't. I can't remember that detail. It's up to her. And she was found or stung or somehow exposed with her little black book. Little black book having names of lots and lots and lots and lots of Hollywood elites and high flyers and big money payers. But just because you have it in a little black book doesn't mean it actually happened. But as we hear from the story, according to Charlie, and again, this is Charlie's version, he would normally pay cash. He hadn't had time to go to the bank. So it's really tax avoidance. That's why they want to get these madams, is because they want the tax on the cash, not for any other reason. So he wrote a traveler's check. Children, ask your grandparents. Had his name on it. She still had it in her notebook when the notebook was seized. So he, according to him, I don't remember it this way, but I didn't go back and do research. I spent too much time watching Grizzly 2, The Revenge, free on YouTube. So Charlie had clearly paid her. And so the deal was flip on her or you go to jail. And he says, and I quote, "There was no other way out of it." Charlie, there was another way. You didn't have to say it.
You could just
You
go to jail.
didn't have to turn on her.
Yeah.
You did not have to turn on her.
Yeah.
So it's quite refreshing in the middle, about the middle of the second episode, to meet Heidi and her parrots. And she's basically, fuck Charlie Sheen.
She hates him. Like she has no, and he
hasn't made amends to her. You might still have some work to do, Charlie.
I think for Heidi Fleiss, she, as a madam, like you said, has dealt with potentially tons of Hollywood stars, and they all to this point apparently been able to kind of keep their business dealings as just that, business dealings that were not public. Then Charlie Sheen goes and throws her under the bus and turns her into this, icon in popular culture, but also like someone who is shamed for her action, someone who is like a pariah. She does not come out of this like like unscathed. Whereas he goes on to become the highest paid actor of all time. And all he had to do was step over this woman and step on her to get there. So I have no issue with her having hard feelings toward Charlie Sheen. I do find it fascinating that I was looking at her Wikipedia page. There's no mention of Charlie Sheen. And it really sounds to me like this is the inciting incident that gets her in trouble, is Charlie Sheen's traveler's check. Why is his name not even dropped in the Wikipedia page? You would think that his name is high enough of a big enough as a name where there should be a little blue link, where you can click it and take you to Charlie Sheen, because their stories are tied together in history.
If you have enough money, you can hire someone to scrub the internet for you. That's, that would be my guess. That he has people that anytime anyone updates her Wikipedia page, they swoop in and take it out. I have no knowledge of that. I'm just imagining. And by the way, everybody, I hope you will note that I said consenting adult humans.
Mm-hmm.
Adult, consenting. Just saying.
Big emphasis on both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're probably right about someone going in and scrubbing Charlie Sheen out of this, because normally what happens is when people watch documentaries and they get like a first-hand source, someone will go update a Wikipedia page as if they've known this all along, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like yesterday's Wikipedia page is not today's Wikipedia page, depending on the documentary that drops. I'm sure if we look at Charlie Sheen's Wikipedia page, there's probably a lot of stuff from that documentary that's probably made its way into there. But I just found it fascinating that like two people who are tied together in history like this, her Wikipedia page is almost completely this, and it has nothing to do with Charlie Sheen. And I just find that very fascinating. She will go on to be, like I said, I know her from Celebrity Rehab. Mm-hmm. They really did her poorly in Celebrity Rehab as well. They had Tom Sizemore on there, her ex-boyfriend, who she had a.
I've had an interaction with Tom Sizemore.
You know Tom Sizemore?
Tommy. No,
not Tommy.
I've had an interaction with him. I have no opinion about him. Well, I have an opinion, and it's very low.
Well, but he has since passed. But
doesn't matter. You can speak ill of the dead, everybody.
Oh yeah,
truth is truth. Just because someone, and another thing I'll say, just because someone dies doesn't mean you wipe out all the bad things they did. No. Just talking very generally, Chappell.
Just in general,
not meaning anyone in particular. Just saying.
I agree. But yeah, the Celebrity, I remember her on Celebrity Rehab, and I know how poorly that went from her. And then them having Tom Sizemore there, knowing that they'd had domestic dispute before, that her restraining order against him had just basically like lapsed, and I think she left and ended up getting in a car accident and going back to rehab. She's struggled. I will say that with a lot of things that probably. That Charlie Sheen didn't help. I will put it like that. I won't blame him for anything, but their connection to me seems notable enough for them to include. And I just found it fascinating that they did not. Is there any other story that you wanted to talk about from the documentary?
Well, what about the chef's surprise? Do you want to talk about the chef's surprise?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
The other side of the menu. He says,
"Oh
yeah, the chef's surprise." Well, he makes a big thing about this. It's not that big of a thing, but I suppose it's a big thing if you're a very famous name, that he has had sex with men. We assume consensual. We assume adult.
Because that comes into question too in Charlie Sheen's life.
Well, we can leave that. He violently denies it, but you would whether it was true or not. So that's and Corey's not here to speak, although he did tell Corey. But the poor man is dead, so we can't say. But he this is where he gets real. And I think because it's not practiced, these aren't practiced stories. This is the first time he's talked about having sex with men publicly. And so he's having to find a way to talk about it that isn't practiced. And I thought, oh, there's Charlie. There's the real Charlie, because he's telling a real story. It's not that there's anything particularly revelatory, honestly. If you're only watching the documentary to get to that bit, I could tell you the whole bit. He had sex with men. That's all there is to it.
Mhm.
But it was given a lot of import. Clear the diner of everybody. Charlie's never spoken about this before. And I did like his analogy of the menu. So you've got the menu and you've had everything on the menu, and then you turn it over and you go, oh, there's all this other stuff on the other side of the menu that I didn't know was there. So that was kind of cute. But it didn't go anywhere. So I also thought, why is that there? I mean, it's not, let's cover it up. It's like, how? I mean, then he doesn't say, and so I found this expansion of my sexuality to be satisfying, or that was the high I've been looking for all my life, or I continue to sleep with men, or I don't continue to sleep with men. Like, it didn't have any resonance somehow. So I was a bit, nah. Apart from seeing the real him, I was a bit, nah. How about you?
I agree with you that they don't really lean into like why this is important in his life to talk about. And so I had to, in the moment, I think I kind of like was like, okay, well, maybe this is tied into all the other things that they've been saying about him, which is like, okay, he's always chasing that next high. And so, like he said, he ran out of the stuff on the menu. He had to flip it over to find his next thing. We know that his sex drive is something that he's talked about throughout this documentary as well. The sex drive mixed with the cocaine and the testosterone levels, because he's got that tiger blood, obviously. You know, like he's gonna fuck. It's just what he's gonna do. And then on top of all of that, maybe it brings into question, is this something that he might have been repressing? And maybe felt some shame about, because he talks about shame and he says, like, I think he said like shame could like hinder you, or shame could end you, or something like that. It was something very like very dismissive of shame as an emotion, I guess, or a state of being.
Shame can lead you to change. It can lead you to apology. It can lead you to make amends.
Yeah, or he said, or it could lead you to end it. I believe that was the two things that he said.
Yes.
Yes. And so I was like, huh. You know, like, so I don't know if this is like him kind of like pulling back the curtain on, maybe like this is something that he felt like he couldn't address as a youth, when he was a Hollywood heartthrob, the son of a Hollywood heartthrob, the brother of a Hollywood heartthrob. You know, like he's in this house full of the men, you know, who are out here having sex, and the women are fawning over them. And he just never had a chance to really do that until he could use the excuse of, well, I started doing it when I was on drugs, and then I just never stopped.
Oh, many a straight man has, you know, I was drunk.
Is that a thing?
I was drunk. Oh, I was on drugs. Yeah.
And he's like,
I was on, it's okay.
And he was like, I was on all the drugs. Like I was
all
on all the drugs. So it took every drug, but I finally got there. And that's kind of the vibe I got from that moment. It's just like, you know, like it's almost like he set the bar so high. I'm like, what else can he do if there's anything else for him to do, to where he's like, yeah, and I just started having sex with random people, and just like it didn't matter what their gender was or whatever. But it's like, you are fighting with drug and alcohol abuse, and a lot of those drugs and alcohol will hinder your libido, first and foremost. And for you to be able to find it in the presence of a man probably just means you want to have sex with a man.
Yeah, you want to have sex with a man, and that's fine.
And that's okay.
Whatever, you know.
Yeah.
We all want to have sex with all sorts of things, including random objects. So, you know, it's fine.
Sometimes people just be having sex with stuff, you know?
Sometimes people just be having sex with stuff. It's true.
I think for me, watching the documentary, I could have done this more. And like, I could have done, like, if there was a third part, I'm in, right? But I don't know if it's because I found Charlie Sheen's story compelling, or if I thought the documentary is just really well done. Seeing, like I said, the people who were there, the people who have intervened in his life, the people who have suffered at his hands, the people who have enabled him, the people who have been there, the people who did not enable him, right? The people who were just there for him as a friend, all in the same place, basically, and giving their opinion, or like their perspective of the events I really enjoyed that a lot, especially when paired with the footage of these people hanging out. So I could have done another one, but 90 minutes is typically too long for me. For 90 minutes an episode is a lot. But there was so much cool stuff in the documentary too, like the filler videos that they would do. It's almost like they did one of those AI things where the AI just inserts random photos and videos for what he's talking about. There was almost animation for everything that Charlie talked about, whether it was him or his dad or a role that they've snatched from a movie and used almost like a placeholder, or just random other clips that made this feel really cohesive and fun to watch. But overall, Sarah, you're the magnifying glass queen. Tell us, if this was crime scene, how are we rating this?
Well, there were crimes.
There were plenty of crimes and not enough
multiple
prison.
Yes,
not enough prison
enough,
for me.
not enough
Yeah.
prison. Yes,
Not enough.
So I would say it's very interesting. You said you don't know if it's because he's compelling or because the documentary is very well made. If I'm rating the documentary, it's extremely well made. So Pepsi Where's My Jet was a big jump on the Von Dutch documentary, and this is a big jump again on Pepsi Where's My Jet. I think the tone is beautifully set. I think the visuals are fantastic. They have a section where there'll be a clip from young Martin Sheen, and then we'll get a clip from young Charlie Sheen, and the resemblance, not just in face. So I think Ramon looks the most like Martin, but in the attitude. So he certainly learned from his father. And I mean, he called himself Charlie Sheen when he could have been Carlos Estevez. So, and Martin actually wasn't that keen, according to Charlie, because again, naughty Martin standing in his way. He thought Charlie Sheen sounded better. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
You wanted to be Sheen because your dad was Sheen and he had cachet. That's just another thing. Anyway, I digress.
Hold on. No, pause. I want to talk about this a little bit. Not to psychoanalyze this family.
Yes.
But what makes Emilio be Emilio? You know, if Martin is Martin, and Emilio could easily be, Emilio Sheen, it's right there. The nepotism or all that kind of stuff is right there. Like the family name would get him going into some spots that, he wouldn't have to explain who his parentage is, despite him looking pretty much like his dad. But he doesn't. And Charlie is the one who is like, nah, I'll embrace it. Ramon doesn't take the Sheen name either, from what I can tell.
Yeah, he's an actor. He's done some acting, Ramon.
Yeah. What do you take from that?
I take that Charlie's smart and he knew where the chips lay and he went and got him.
Mm-hmm. And Emilio?
Emilio wanted to make his own way. So in the 80s, when they were both coming up, it's like Emilio was always Emilio, he's the one. He's the one. Because he was sort of bad boy. He was very good looking, like him and man whose name we don't say anymore, but he might be an homme sauvage, let us say. They were so pretty, so pretty. Charlie was never pretty. He was more handsome. So we liked Emilio and we thought he had, I don't know, there was an idea even then, we didn't know the word Nepo baby, but I think everybody in the whole world just had thoughts like that about Emilio, and the fact that he's not in this documentary, I think, speaks something. Not that he's anti-Charlie, but I think that he couldn't possibly say everything that he feels about him, whether he loves him or not, and I assume he loves him.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, what about you? What do you take from it?
I don't know. Because a part of me knows that, like, maybe if I was watching my dad on the set of Apocalypse Now, struggling with, withdrawals and addiction and stuff like that, maybe I too would want to separate myself from something like that.
Yeah. Emilio's 5 years older. So he was a mid to older teenager, and Charlie was younger.
Yeah.
I mean, in case people don't know, Estevez is Martin Sheen's surname. So in a way, he changed it to Sheen. That's his name. So it's not like you've been named your mother's surname and then you decide to take your father's surname. This was he was adopting an adopted name. And interesting that even by his report, Martin didn't want him to do it.
Right. Yeah. So
Maybe he
back,
saw that he didn't want him to have the doors open just because of the name, you know?
yeah, I mean, again, I don't think that's going to stop anything. As you talked about with
No.
Emilio, like, that's
Yeah.
okay, fine.
That's yeah.
Um,
Everyone knows who he is.
yeah,
Everyone knows
but
who George
it,
Clooney is. We know.
yeah, but it couldn't have hurt that
No.
Charlie Sheen goes by Sheen
No.
and gets away with a lot of Sheen's antics.
Yes, yes. I mean, I think the whole thing about nepo babies is, as my friend who's an actor says, his father owned a fish and chip shop. If he'd wanted to own a chain of fish and chip shops, no one would say, "Oh, nepo baby." It's like he would
Hmm.
have grown up working in the fish and chip shop, and then he would have gone on to be, the king of fish and chips. But because he wanted to be an actor, no such luck. So I think the thing is, if you're a nepo baby, your door might open, but you've got to actually have the goods for it to stay open. And, Charlie's very magnetic on screen.
Hmm.
So you asked me how many magnifying glasses. I would give it 5 for the documentary, but I found spending that much time with Charlie unpleasant because I had a lot of thoughts and I was trying to be very charitable. He is a human being who struggles like we all struggle. Your idea of an extra episode, I could say more of other people,
Yes.
less of Charlie.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really have anyone other than Heidi who could really lay bare the damage that he did to other people. So I'm going to say 5 for the documentary. Yeah, out of 5.
Do you think it's Do you think at this point, 8 years sober, knowing all the things that he has gone through, do you think that maybe the people around him are very protective of him
Yes,
getting
I
a
do.
lot of negative feedback from Heidi Fleiss type characters that he has left in its wake? I would love to see it, but I don't know if Charlie can see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's very insightful.
Yeah. Okay.
So how many magnifying glasses are you going to give?
I
AKA
want
Charlie
to.
Sheen.
Yeah, I want to recommend this to people, right? And
Yes.
so that's how I know I liked it, right? So we're starting at 4
Yeah.
anyway. I do appreciate the way it's done. I really liked the footage. I really loved the talking heads. And it but it does feel a little hollow. And I think it's because of Charlie
Yes.
Sheen
Great
keeping
word.
everything up here. It's keeping everything light. We're laughing through a lot of these really dark moments. And some people don't enjoy dark moments. I'm not a big fan of them, but it does feel a little inauthentic when watching something like this. So that said, 5 magnifying glasses for me for sure. Because I immediately wanted to tell someone else to watch this. That's how I knew that I loved it. I was like, oh, someone else needs to see this. One, because there are fantastical stories in there that I think that even if you don't know anything about Charlie Sheen, you'll get a kick out of those. But then also you see the very human side of the people who he affected. Not so much him, but the people he affected talking about it, that stuff to me really spoke. And so, yeah, I'd give it 5 magnifying glasses if it was a true crime documentary. It wasn't,
Fantastic.
but it kind of counts.
Yes. Crime adjacent.
Yeah. So, Sarah, what's next? What should I be talking about on Nothing But Netflix? Do you have any recommendations, especially some crime scene recommendations, or even what are you about to talk about on crime scene that our people need to be on the lookout for?
Yes. Well, my recommendation I've already given. Long story short, it's fantastic. Everyone see it. Chappell talk about it. This week on Crime Scene, we are talking about Untold Deal with the Devil. We usually talk about stuff that's just been made fresh.
Mm-hmm.
This is from 2021. It's about Christy Martin. And the reason that we were talking about it is the Sydney Sweeney movie, Christy, just opened at the Toronto Film Festival, International Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie's going to be in release in November. And so we wanted to go back. We love the Untold series. So even if you, like me, don't groove with sports ball very much, because the Untold are all basically about sports people, they're fascinating stories. I haven't watched one that I haven't thought was great. And Untold Deal with the Devil is up there with my favorite, which was The Sign Stealer. We meet Christy. We talk to Christy. She's an asshole. She was an asshole. She's not anymore. So she has people saying she's an asshole. She says she was an asshole. It's like, great. See, now that's interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
very different from how Charlie. But anyway, they're two different people. So if you are interested, I would say watch Untold Deal with the Devil. It's on Netflix. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. And then listen to me and the great Murray Forth and our wonderful guest, Mel Barrett, talk about it this week. Yeah.
All right. And the Nothing But Netflix listeners are familiar with the Untold series before. We did Untold Shooting Guards here. And
Yes.
so if you enjoyed that, make sure you check this out and make sure you go and check out Crime Scene and keep up with all the true crime.
I think you did the girlfriend that didn't exist as well, the Manti
We
Te'o
did
one.
Manti Te'o. Did you guess on that? Was that you?
No, that was
I
Murray.
can't remember. No, I
It
think
was
it was
Murray. I know we looked the same.
Was it Mari? Oh, yeah. I actually thought it was Sasha. It's really hard to remember. I've done so many episodes
yeah.
of Nothing But Netflix, but I feel like it was all.
Look it up. Look it up, kids.
Yeah,
anyway,
look it up. We can look it up. Yeah, but
Yeah.
aside from that, make sure you check out Crime Scene. Support Mari and Sarah, obviously, and then make sure you are supporting Nothing But Netflix by subscribing. NothingButPod.com. Make sure you subscribe on all social media platforms as well at Nothing But RHAP. And then let me know what it is that you want me to talk about. It's spooky season, so who knows what might pop up on Netflix that's spooky or fun or whatever the case may be. We'll address it here on Nothing But Netflix, and then you can check out my podcast, Recap Kickback, where Mari is over there. She's doing her double duty and talking to me every week. We talked about Seen and Heard, the docuseries about Black television history, produced by Issa Rae. Check that out. That should be on your podcast feed this weekend. And then you can check out Chantel and I talking about The Flavor of Love Season 2 live on YouTube every week and going through the history of Tiffany New York Pollock. But that's it. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you all next time. Peace.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.